Hello and welcome to the studio, and this video is one that I've been meaning to do for a couple of weeks now, but it's a little bit later than I intended. This song, as I've said in a previous video, was about the fifth song that I wrote on the album, so I'd already kind of established a sort of rocky flavour to the album, and I wanted something a bit funkier, a bit more up, and I think one of the most notable features about the music here is the horn section, which I'm quite pleased with, and it sounds like this.
We'll go surfing, find the happiness you seek. Book a paradise vacation for a week. You can call your friends.
So the horn section, I play in a band with a three-piece horn section, trumpet, trombone, tenor sax, and also I'd been listening to things like Make It Mine by Jason Mraz, Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel, and various other things with the horn sections. And I quite like the idea of having a horn section. But in the middle of a lockdown, you can't get people to come into your house and play trumpets, trombones and saxophones. So I went for the next best thing, which was an old friend of mine up here, which is this. The Roland Sound Canvas SC88 Pro. Get the Pro. Not the amateur version, just the Pro. And this is a really interesting bit of kit. It's about 25, 30 years old now, but I love it. It's got such a great bunch of sounds in it. And at the time that I started using it, there were no digital audio workstations as such. It was MIDI workstations. So you had to have everything in external boxes. And that was great because it's actually two sound generators in one, so there's 32 channels of sound. It's got a whole bunch of effects, and then you can route external sounds from your mixer through those effects as well. It's a great bit of kit for the time. So if I just played that using a horn section sound, it would sound something like this. It doesn't really sound like a real horn section. That's because a horn section is made up of three monophonic instruments that can only play one sound at a time. So what I did at first was to write the horn section using that sound. So then I split that into three separate parts for the trumpet, trombone and the tenor sax. So if we look at just the tenor saxophone part just for now, you can see there's some pitch bend data at the start of some of the notes, but it's not on all of the notes, so they don't all sound exactly the same. You get that little, just that little bending into the note there. And there's a bit of volume automation, but you can't see it there. And there at the end, that last note, it's like somebody trying to play a very fast run. So that's making that a bit more realistic. The other thing that's going on there with all of these instruments is I've switched the SC88 to mono mode, which means each of these channel instruments will only play one note at a time. You can't play chords. And that's important because a trumpet doesn't play chords, saxophone doesn't play chords, trombone doesn't play chords. So, moving on to the trumpet, but we've got split notes there. Again, if I just zoom in on that, here, there's a tiny little note that comes before the actual note itself. So instead of going ba-da-ba, it's going bra-da-da. The saxophone isn't doing that because they would be two different musicians playing slightly differently, and that's important. Keep it realistic. You've got to treat each part individually, which is why playing handfuls of notes as chords on a brass section patch doesn't work as well. Again, bit of pitch bend. Note the swell in volume here. So the volume's changing slightly. Again, one of those little little runs, very, very tiny notes that come after the main one. And finally, the trombone. Now, the trombone is kind of fun. A lot of pitch bend, because trombones, of course, you can do that. And slight slide off when the note goes off. So some notes are sliding into the note, some notes were sliding off the note. That's a very realistic sort of effect there. Two things. One is I'm not using the built-in vibrato, and we don't want everything doing vibrato at the same speed because that's not realistic. So here on the trombone, I've actually drawn it in manually with pitch bend. I use a Wacom tablet, which is actually for graphics, but they're great because you can draw waveforms with them on these things with the pen, and get a very realistic sound very quickly. And again, that note, instead of being a run of notes, it's a bent note, but it also jumps down an octave, because again, that kind of thing happens on trombones. It doesn't happen so much on saxophones or on trumpets. Sometimes the saxophone will split a note downwards, or the trombone will split a note downwards, and the trumpet will actually go up. So they're kind of going in opposite directions. One other thing is to just stagger the notes, not to quantize everything, to make everything be bang on the beat. So, make the saxophone maybe a little bit later. Trombone, again, could be a little bit later. Trumpet, maybe slightly ahead of the beat. So underneath all of that, I did actually use a little tiny bit of the horn section. So there you have it, and I hope you found that interesting, and I'll be back with more very soon. Bye for now.